actually, I want to play a game with you, a new game.
Oh.
Different game.
Different game.
We're back in Vegas.
Okay.
But it's a different game, all right?
Nice.
So now in this case, the game is called Calling Functions.
Oh.
Yeah, calling functions. I'm going to give you a very small a subset of the deck of cards. So here you go. And I'm going to call a function right now. I'm going to ask you to give me only aces out of this deck.
Okay.
That's the first function. Only aces.
There you go.
Okay, great, thank you. And just proof of concept, only aces. So a very, very custom function in which we return only aces. Now, why don't we try to make this try to design another function, a second function, that is a bit more complex. Can you please group these aces by the color, red versus black?
Okay. So here is your return.
So now the output of the function has two elements.
Exactly.
Could be a vector of two elements, could be a data frame with two variables, whatever you want, right? But it returns more than one element.
Exactly.
So very important, use the return statement at the end of your user-defined function, right? Very good, okay. So now, the third function that I'm going to ask you to do is take these aces, but also take the twos out of your deck, and then order them by color and in descending order.
Okay.
All right.
By color.
Cool. So you got the aces. Now you're taking out the twos.
It's a very specific function.
It's a very specific function, right?
Yeah.
No one ever would ask you the same question, right?
Not at all.
Okay.
So the twos and aces, black. The twos and aces, red. And now you have your
two outputs.
Exactly, your
grouped exactly as I've asked, right? Yeah. So by colors, black and red, and in descending order, right? Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, so that's exactly how these user-defined functions work. It's a very specific task, unique, where you wouldn't really find elsewhere. It's a task that when you Google how to solve it, you most likely won't get an answer, right? And then you have to design something of your own, very unique, to solve it. And that's exactly what we just covered. So, yeah, I think that was cool. Awesome.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Okay, Thomas, did you remember what we did when we were washing the dishes?
I remember that my hands got wet.
Oh man, like true. And what was like? Do you remember in the process? What was your role?
I was soaping and sponging the item.
Yeah. And you were executing one function of the whole process.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So now we are going to talk about functions. Actually, we are using a lot of functions since we started coding. Read line, print, type of, everything is a function. It's something that someone wrote and make it available for us to use. So we don't need to code it again. So function is a piece of code that allows us to group a set of tasks, a group of part of a process that by receiving some arguments, some inputs, will run this process and generate an output, or it will execute a function operation inside the function. So the way to create your own function, you can see on the right side of the slide. So you are going to have the function name, left arrow, the word function, and in parentheses the arguments that you want to work with for function. In between the curly brackets, we will write the commands that your function will run, and at the end you can and they strongly recommended that you return a value or a vector. And by the way, returning a vector is how your function can return more than one value. So pay attention to that. How many values do you really want to return to the program or to the script that calls your function?
And we call that a function output, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The return sends the output to the script or to the function or to the process that called the function. That you learned how to assign values, how to make decisions, how to write the repetitions, how to control the flow of your code. This is the challenge. Create your own function. So define which piece of code, which process you want to encapsulate in a function, and which are the arguments that this function needs, and what are the outputs or the output that this function will return, and write your own function and a script that will run it. Send it to me.
What we see here is a user-defined function called final_grade. This UDF has a few function inputs, right, that we call arguments. These first two arguments, grade 1 and grade 2, are going to be modified every single time. They're going to be also required when we call the function. And we have two parameters that are by default equal to 1. So weight 1 by default is equal to 1, and weight 2 by default is equal to 1. Mauricio, I kind of like what you did here.
You should be proud of me, man. I learned very well.
A+ for you. A+ for you. That's right. A lot of comments. Document your code. Tell us what you do. It'll make your life and other lives much easier.
And you know what I like from this code?
Yeah.
Is that we are using this in the return, we have all this calculation in one line. So by using all the resources that we learned about the priority of the math and everything, we can structure our code and make it simpler.
Makes sense. I like it too. That's right. So we could have went a different direction and just saved this calculation here in a object in the previous line of code, and then called that one calculation scalar, right? I'm guessing it's a scalar. We could call it in this return statement, or as you did here, have this entire calculation in the return statement. So very good, very good. Yep, the code is flexible. So now if we run this function, user-defined function, Control Enter, command return, it'll save a function in our environment, right? If by any chance you ever forget what this function does and what the inputs are, what the arguments are, you can click on this icon here to get the entire UDF in your first upper left-hand corner window.
I should use some glasses.
Glasses.
Is it Google?
It's almost like Google. Yeah, it's almost like Google. Hey, what does the final grade function do? Google it, right? But you won't find it because it's a UDF, very custom, right?
It means that the user-defined functions, they are kind of exclusive, right?
Yes, very exclusive. Yeah, very unique for your code, for your particular situation. Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Good to know.
So this feature is really good, especially if you have a lot of functions in your code, right? It's kind of like your own private Google.
You didn't teach me when I was your student.
Hey, we got to learn new stuff every single day, right?
Thank you for teaching me now.
Nice, good. Okay, so just keep in mind that we have these UDF inputs. We have two that are grades and two that are weights. The weights have default values of 1. Both weights are by default 1. And now we're going to define these grades. For the first assessment, the grade will be 8. I guess it's a scale from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Then I've guessed good. And the second assessment will be aced, 10 out of 10. So very, very good grade for the second assessment.
My grades with you, man.
Ah, nice. I'm proud of you. Okay, good. And now we're going to be using the final underscore grade user-defined function and use the assessment 1 grade and assessment 2 grade to pass these two values, 8 and 10, through our user-defined function. So in our case, we are expecting these two values, grade 1 and grade 2, will be replaced with the values of assessment 1 and assessment 2. So grade 1 will be equal to 8 because assessment 1 is equal to 8, and grade 2 will be equal to 10 because assessment 2 is equal to 10. So if I look at my user-defined function, this will return as if it was 8 times 1 plus 10 times 1 divided by parentheses 1 plus 1. Okay, good. So let's do it. Let's call this function. Let's call this function with those two grades for those two assessments and save the output of that function call in a object called final. Control Enter, Control Return, and the final score is 9, right? This kind of is a average, weighted average, right? Of the score.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Great.
So the thing about this function is that when we want to do the arithmetic average, like sum and divide by some two values and divide by 2, we don't need to inform the weights. If we want to make a weighted average, we just need to inform the weight 1 and weight 2.
Let's try that very quickly. So if I were to change the first weight, weight 1 equals, let's say, 0.4, 40%, and then weight 2 equals 60%, right, or actually 0.6. Well, this should give us a slightly different result, right? If we rerun this piece of code, it'll give us 9.2, right? So a slightly higher weighted grade.
Because I was a good student, so in the second assignment I was better, which was the one with the higher weight.
That's right. So, but you deserved it. You worked hard, so you deserved it. Awesome. And then just in case anyone asks, what grade did Mauricio get? We can print his final grade with this prefix saying final grade is colon. So if we run this line of code, it'll give us a beautiful output in the console that says final grade is 9.2. All right, I think that would be it. Pretty easy.
Thomas, I just want to call attention to one thing here that we noticed a lot with our students in the past.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when they run the code, and you showed that when they don't select in one of your previous episodes that if they don't select everything,
that's right.
Like they miss it shows like a red message. If we don't select correctly the lines that we want to run, and then we leave, in this case, parentheses without closing it, look at the console, it keeps the color blue. Mm-hmm. And here at the beginning of the line it has a plus sign, which means that the R Studio is waiting for something to close the parentheses.
Yep.
So most people stay stuck there and cannot move on. They try to rerun, and when you try to do that, it just doesn't work because R is still waiting for something, and it keeps repeating all the things that you try to run. So the solution here is to select the console, make it the cursor blinks here, and press escape, and look how the sign here changed from plus to less than. So then in this case you can select your code correctly and rerun your code.
And it
now
works.
you don't have the
Yeah.
So this is a very simple thing to pay attention. Like pay attention the color of your console and which is the sign that you have to the left hand side. Just want to add something to the.
If it's
to
a
this.
plus, always escape.
Escape.
Yeah, escape. All right, cool. That was helpful for sure.